Professor Tripathi obtained his MSc Engineering in Computer Engineering from the Institute of Computer Systems, ONPU, Ukraine, PhD in Computer Engineering from the Institute of Technology, BHU, and is involved in teaching and research at IT BHU for last 25 years. His research interests include parallel and distributed computing and software engineering. He has successfully guided 10 scholars for their PhD degrees and is currently guiding 4 more students. He has published more than 50 research papers in refereed journals and proceedings. One research monogram of Professor Tripathi has been published by Springer USA in 2009. He has authored 2 book chapters in books published from John Wiley USA and Springer USA. I now request Professor Tripathi to please present his talk.
Thank you, Professor Anand Mohan. Quantum computing is an area that has attracted people from various disciplines, and mostly people, those who do not belong to computer science, have been contributing in a great deal. There are certain things that we must be interested in, like there are 3 words that are of importance in science or any studies in general: issues, challenges and problems. Many a times we make use of these words interchangeably, but they mean obviously different things. Issues are something that scientists, academicians and possibly the society in general are concerned with. When we start addressing an issue, then we may come across a few challenges that need to be tackled. When we start dealing with the challenges one by one, we come across multiple small and big problems that need to be solved. Today I am going to talk only about issues, not about challenges and problems that need to be dealt with. Those issues are important because as students of computer science, we have been waiting for quantum computers to be a reality, and people have to work with it, people have to solve problems. There are many types of problems that need to be solved. There are certain problems that computers are not going to solve in the near future, but there are problems that can be solved by computers, and there are certain issues that we have been interested in. Mostly I would be concentrating on software engineering issues. As software engineers, what people can look for. As I know that many of the participants here are from colleges and universities, those who may be wondering what quantum computing and computer science is. On the internet, if you just look at the types of problems that we solve today with computers, many times you will find that you are comfortable. Why do you require another type of machine? But one point that makes us understand how quantum computing is going to change the scenario is that for doubling the power of a conventional classical machine, we require to double the register length. But by just adding 1 bit in a quantum computing machine, the power will be doubled. So the type of computing power that would be available once the quantum computing machines are around is phenomenal, and that is why everybody is interested in knowing what is the type of issues that are involved, still where computer scientists and software scientists, or more to say computer engineering people, must pitch in and try to look at those problems and solutions. So the 4 grand challenge is that when John Clark and Susan Stepney wrote this, then they were thinking that by 2020, quantum computer science and quantum software engineering would be as advanced as today the classical ones are. But possibly now it is not going to happen. So every time when people wrote about quantum computers and quantum computer science, they said 20 years more and it will be there. So we can add 20 more years to what we are today, 2010, and we can talk about 2030. So there are, immediately you can notice that there are two types of people. One is the camp of people, those who believe that quantum machines would be there, quantum computing machines would be there and they would be solving problems. And then the sizable chunk of people, number of people, those who do not believe in this. But obviously the number is growing day by day, and countries and academic institutions are getting interested in quantum computer science because it adds to your status in terms of your standing in computer science research when it comes to dealing with cutting edge technology or maybe the various scientific issues. When commercial computers would be available, how would the quantum software engineering exploit the full potential of commercial quantum computers, computing hardware, whatever it would be? Would it be of the similar type what we have today, or it would be different? Most of the researchers today are producing machines that are good for doing maybe some types of operations that computers can perform today, making use of the gates known as quantum gates. Can we have such a discipline as quantum software engineering, and would it be different, and how it would be different? What are the present day machines? If you look at the method we program computers, what do we do? Anybody who has written program in his or her life would recall that writing the first program was not that easy, because it was very difficult to find out what is the first thing that should be written. What should be the first statement? And the solution was also simple, because somebody made you understand that it is very easy to write the first statement, because the set of first statements would be the one that will have the statements that would be consuming only the input operands. And then thereafter, whatever is the result that is being produced by the first statement set, you can have the set of second statements that will be consuming either an input or the intermediate result generated by the set of first statements. So on forth. So we have a method of organizing a computational procedure or a computational repertoire in terms of delaying the operations, mathematical or logic operations involved in solving a problem till the necessary operands are available. And we have these types of machines as von Neumann machines under the name stored program concept. The stored program concept is simple, but the consequences are interesting and great. The program and data both are stored in the same memory. What it means is that the memory does not distinguish between an instruction and data when it is stored in a location. A location may contain either an instruction or data item. It is for the processor to understand that whatever is being fetched is an instruction or data. And it helps in organizing a machine that can take an instruction, modify it, and then execute later at some point of time. And apart from it, when you are executing a program, when you are executing instructions of a program, then there is a possibility of producing results and storing them away so as to make them usable when all the necessary operands for some other instruction that comes later would be executed. So factually, we have a limitation from the machine side, that we have gone for a type of compromise between time and space. We wanted to use the tiny hardware, the arithmetic logic unit, in successive iterations so as to synthesize a higher level mathematical operation by executing smaller arithmetic and logic operations. Theoretically, You can do it by putting a hardware that can do the job quickly, and that is why every time when you have a system, you can say that it is hardware plus software. When it is hardware, then it is factually you are expanding in a space, and when you are saying software, what it means is that you are going to expand in time. So when you have a tiny hardware, what software means is that you are going to iteratively multiple times you are going to make use of the same hardware to synthesize some computational procedure for which you have written a procedure, and that procedure is available within the system. Is it possible to have a machine which has no software, only hardware? Theoretically, yes, because software is also logic and hardware is also logic. So if you convert the total software into hardware logic, it may be possible. But obviously, people are normally not interested in implementing a computing machinery as a total hardware, because if the probability of failure of one piece of hardware is something, then probability of failure of a big deal of hardware elements is very high and the reliability goes down. So there is a possibility of making a machine which can have more of software and less of hardware. Similarly, whether it is possible to have a machine that can have no hardware, only software, obviously you can talk about people like Shakuntala Devi, etc., who can do many computations without making use of a machine. So the possibilities do exist. That is, these are the issues that we would be talking about, that how these computations can be carried out very fast on a model that is not the model that we are making use of today. Such machines essentially have memory associated with the compute engines. The computational repertoire is divided into computational steps, and the intermediate results produced by the computational steps are stored in memory elements for use as input operands by the later steps. So it delays. Factually, it is not the requirement of the computation all the time. Many times there are many computational steps that can be performed in parallel, but we are delaying them. Even in the machines that have got multiple contexts running on the same chip, like multi-core CPUs or multi-context CPUs, even in those machines also, we have the same thread of computation, sequential computation carried out there also. As one can notice, the use of memory introduces delay and the total solution process exhibits a sequential nature. This quite fits with the nature of arithmetic logic units of machines that are repetitively used for synthesizing result of a computational step, as we have seen earlier. The very first computational steps may require only the input operands. The very nature of such machines demands that the small computational steps be performed and inputs along with the intermediate results be stored in memory for use and reuse at various points in time, and hence one requires a program required to decompose the decomposition of the solution to a computational problem into computational steps and define an order of their execution with appropriate steps of storage and retrieval of the intermediate results, all in a procedural form known under the name programming. And that is what we mean by programming a solution to the problem. So, if we look at such an organization, sequential nature of computing, it should not be difficult to notice that there is a possibility of exploiting the inherent parallelism in any computational procedure. There would be multiple possibilities, they can be exploited. The Turing machine model that we have, the sequential model, is good enough. We have been using it. There have been many architectural advancements also for exploiting these types of parallelisms that may be there, like issuing multiple instructions together. The very long instruction word computers have been there, the superscalar architectures, etc. also came. One is forced to think to be done in sequential way even when it is possible to exploit the inherent parallelism present in the computational procedure. The collection of registers, the memory and instruction sequences, etc. all help in achieving this. What would be a model that can exploit the inherent parallelism available in a procedure? Would such a model have memory? We have always been thinking that memory is a good thing. I mean, if you have a machine that has got a good deal of memory, it is a good machine. Just because the machines, they have to delay their operations to be performed, and the instructions that are waiting for the processor to operate on the data, those data have to be stored in the memory. The requirement of memory has been an important characteristic of a great machine. The data flow computing model has a different understanding of the execution of the computational repertoire. What is that understanding? I am just trying to juxtapose these two models to understand that there can be various ways of looking at the computations, the computability, and the corresponding computation models. In the case of data flow computation, we talk about availability of infinitely many processing elements. Just try to juxtapose it with the stored program concept model or the von Neumann model, in which we talk about one arithmetic logic unit, the tiny arithmetic logic unit. We are talking about infinitely many processing elements, as many we may want. So for any procedure to be executed, all the computational steps that are involved in the procedure, we have the liberty of assigning a computational step to an individual processing element. What is going to be the benefit of it? The benefit is, like, let us look at the first statement, the set of the first statements that can be written in a program. Now all those statements that are going to consume only the input operands, they can be assigned to some processing elements, and then they would produce the output, the intermediate result. Those intermediate results can be routed to those processing elements that are designated to consume those intermediate results, maybe along with the input operands that are going to be available for the purpose. This type of organization of a computation would not require memory. We are not talking about huge data to be processed. We are talking about the data produced during the execution of a computational procedure. That is the idea of the data flow computing model, a model that operates on a principle that warrants no use of memory for either storing the computational steps or the intermediate results. Unlike the sequential von Neumann computing model, it assumes availability of infinitely many computing elements. One computing element is assigned the role of performing one computational step with its operands coming either directly as input of the problem or as output intermediate result of another computing element of the arrangement. Obviously, and the second reason why I am citing data flow computing model, that when this model was proposed, at that time also it was being understood that in very near future data flow computing machines would be around, everybody would be using it, and people would start writing programs, and programming languages also came in that could purposefully utilize the data flow computing model, and the computational speed would be very high. That was being understood. Such a processing element is known to be waiting for all the operands, and as and when it receives them, it fires its own result. That is the term used for data flow computing model. But still, one has to understand that the method of thinking about decomputation remains the same. It does not deviate from what the sequential model thought about computing, the way computations must be performed. The only possibility of that is what we are saying, that if you are expanding in hardware, expanding in space, then time is getting reduced. So a system can be hardware and software. So we are having more hardware, more number of processing elements, and the requirement of memory is diminishing. It is not there. human mind keeps performing quantum mechanical computations as a routine affair. We are sufficiently good at that. We keep doing that. Quantum machines can very closely mimic that capability of quantum mechanical computations. So if it becomes a reality, as I said in the beginning, that doubling the power of a machine in our classical computing model requires doubling the register length, whereas in the quantum machines, just by adding one bit, one qubit, the power is doubled. So if such types of commercial computers would be available, then obviously a good deal of new things can also happen that we have not thought about as of now. I had mentioned the word Turing machines in the beginning. That was important also. Why? Because this does not only show a path for making a machine, a machine that is a sequential machine that we make use of today. It also talked about the notion of computability. So if something is computable, we can demonstrate that we can propose a Turing machine for the purpose. In other words, what we said, that Turing computability means mechanical solvability. I mean, if something is mechanically solvable, then Turing machine can do it. There are many problems as of today that we cannot solve in reasonable time on machines that we have. And that is what is promised by the quantum computers, that those problems would also be done quickly. Even there are newer types of problems that will arise when many of those problems can be solved. What are the requirements in the future that we need to concentrate on? What are the issues that we should be concerned with so as to be able to exploit the quantum machines when they are around? And when we talk about quantum computing machines, we are talking about the commercial quantum computing machines, not the laboratory machines. Most of the researchers in quantum computing area we would find today is centered around proposing newer types of algorithms, and they would be making use of some number of qubits, and they would be making use of quantum gates. Just think about writing programs in terms of and or gates. With the new type of capability of quantum computing machines, there would be some more problems that can be solved. So instead of looking at only Turing machines, so as we said that in case of data flow model programming, when we talked about programming a solution to a problem, then what we meant there was writing the steps. Such way, in the sequential computing domain, giving a method for solving a problem is nothing but organizing the computational steps in such a form so as to be able to generate intermediate results at appropriate time and consume intermediate results. Writing a program for sequential computers is nothing but writing the computational logic and writing the intermediate result generation and exploitation logic. Both are done simultaneously. Whereas, in case of data flow computing model, what we are doing is that we are programming the interconnection of the processing elements. That is what is the programming that is done for making available their appearance as the processing elements have the capability of waiting and firing the result only when their respective operands are available. Quantum computing does not mimic exactly the data flow model, but in a way, though we talk about quantum registers, etc., but when full capability quantum machines should be available, they may mimic the same idea of exploitation of the 100% parallelism in solution process to a problem. And newer types of solution processes are also possible. As I said, that notion of computability was shown by the model of the Turing machine. Now, it is the time when we should be talking about the notion of quantum computability also. So, mechanical solvability is Turing computability. That is one thing that we have to understand. There are problems that are tractable problems, the problems that can be solved on a computing machine, as we know. There are problems that are intractable. As computer science students, you are aware about problems that can be solved in polynomial time on the machines that we know, that we make use of today. There are certain problems that cannot be solved in polynomial time on the machines that we have today, but those problems can be solved in polynomial time on machines that are of non-deterministic model. And that is what is the class of NP. And there also we have got two classes of problems, NP hard and NP complete. We call that there is a set of problems, and if you can show that any one of them can be solved in polynomial time, then all other problems can also be solved in polynomial time. That is the class of NP complete problems. What it means is that they are computationally related. And then finally, if you go to books of theory of computation or in the algorithm science, also science of algorithms, that is algorithmics, you will find that all those problems can be demonstrated to be amenable to solution if there is one problem that is known as satisfiability problem, CNF satisfiability problem, if that can be solved in polynomial time. Quantum machines can have the capability of giving algorithms for faster solutions of these problems also. All the optimization problems can be converted into decision problems, and that can be shown. So those who are interested in knowing about the tough problems and how difficult they are, those who do not come from computer science domains can look at these things, the optimization problems, the big search space problems. And thus the notion of computability is stop here. There could be certain problems that as of today are not tractable on the machines that we have. General purpose quantum computational models potentially can be realized in quantum computers, so that is what I was trying to talk about. Today, if we have to think about the solutions to the problems when we come to know about the news items that appear in newspapers about the quantum computing machines or in scientific journals, etc., they are normally in terms of quantum gates for computer programs. I mean, just imagine if we have to write all our programs that we are writing today in terms of NAND and OR gates. That is the state of affairs with this new type of computational model. Obviously very important one. Unless you do this much, you cannot go beyond and can have later things. The issue that I am talking about is there a possibility of have we reached the status when we can start talking about the languages that are of the type, not exactly the type, of the capability that we make use of high-level languages today, the tools that we make use of for devising algorithms, the strategies that we talk about as we study algorithm design, etc., in terms of classical computing models. Has the time come to think about them, or we will have to still to wait for some more time to come to that level to be able to deal with these types of issues that were dealt with long back when the classical computing was being discussed. It is just like describing classical machine programs in terms of AND OR gates. So, what I think that now the time has come when we should think about new paradigm for understanding and describing quantum computations and programs that should be written for quantum machines. The classical software engineering needs to be redone, reworked, and possibly extended into the quantum domain when such a possibility would be there. Possibly, regarding the computability and the machine model also, if somebody puts in, this is the issue that is important issue, can somebody think in terms of quantum Turing machine, the Turing machine that we have talked about, would there be a quantum Turing machine sort of thing? So that anybody who is trying to propose a solution that needs to be later implemented in terms of quantum program could be shown to be workable by a quantum Turing machine. Similarly, the notions of algorithmic complexity, quantum algorithmic complexity in terms of time, space, parallel universe space, and any other such parameters of interest. Instead of talking about simply in terms of unitary matrices. Suitable assembly and high-level quantum languages. This was the problem that was faced long back in the early 70s or mid 70s. Being a great computer scientist or computer engineer would mean that whether you understand machine language programs or can you write assembly language programs, right? Because that was the time when people used to show that you can write a program and work out a solution to a problem. I think that is the type of stages of development that quantum computing has to pass through, that it has possibly, it has to have, or there can be a jump, a leap, and we may talk in terms of high level languages without going to assembly level languages for quantum computing, quantum assembly languages. This is another issue that needs to be discussed in scientific community and answers to be, and when we discuss this issue, then only we come across the challenges that need to be taken. And once those languages would be there, programs would be there, then would we require quantum compilers to compile those programs into object code that will run on a quantum machine? Or more elegantly, can we say that we would have present day programs, and these programs can be translated into quantum programs or directly into quantum assembly language or machine language programs that can be computed, that can be executed on quantum machines. Something that we talked about in terms of parallel programs, that parallelizing compilers, that you can have a sequential program and a parallel version can be produced by a compiler, a code that will run on a parallel machine, that type of situation. Because the scientific community has been devoting a good deal of time and effort in making programs that are running on today's machines, when the quantum machines would come, then writing new programs, new algorithms every time. Obviously, if new algorithms are there, new programs one would be writing. But if the simple algorithms can be converted into quantum algorithms, simple sequential algorithms, or for that matter at the higher level, if the programs could be translated and quantum quantum programs could be produced, or machine language equivalent could be produced that can code the quantum machine, factorization, etc. and beyond. Q algorithms, obviously, a discipline. And when we say Q algorithm, it doesn't mean that firefighting sort of thing, that today to me occurred that this is a good problem, it needs a solution, and I write a quantum algorithm for that. When we are talking about quantum algorithms, what we are talking about is the strategies that we talk about. Like when we go to algorithmics for classical computing model, we have the divide and conquer, we have the greedy method, we have the branch and bound, we have a mix of all these, backtracking, etc., all taken together for solving many problems. Can there be novel strategies of algorithmics, for quantum algorithmics? Maybe the time has not yet come. There are many still things to be done by physicists, by those who are from the domain of nano electronics and microelectronics side. and other physics domain people, still there are many issues and challenges that need to be tackled, and then possibly we come to that situation. So, whether still another issue is that can we have certain types of tools that may be used for these purposes. Like, can we have quantum computer simulators in order to perform computational experiments and validate language and algorithm designs? This is something that is possible, this issue. I mean, instead of going to quantum computers directly, we can have simulators, and people are working on these lines, and such types of simulators are becoming very useful for those who are interested in laboratory validation of the algorithms and the problem solving methods that would be there. You see, let me give one more noticeable thing that has occurred to minds of people, that this is not the only method of performing computing, quantum computing, that is going to change life. People are talking about quantum computing based on things based on optics. There is a possibility of biocomputing also, molecular computing also. The amino acid chains can be involved. There is a possibility of a hybrid type of machine that makes use of all the three, etc. So this is not the only way of providing a good deal of computing power. And possibly maybe next 20 years down the line, we are going to see a great change in terms of newer types of machines appearing. But whether those machines are going to appear within 20 years is difficult to say, because this window of 20 years is sliding. In 90s also we said that it is 20 more years. In 2000 also we said 20 more years and we will have, and now in 2010 again we say 20 more years and we would have. So the commercial machines are not very easily going to come. So these types of simulators are going to be important, because what we want is possibly that whether there can be a parallel development of the architectural arrangements of quantum computing machineries and the corresponding theory of computation, the corresponding algorithmics, the corresponding development of programming languages, the software architectures, etc., etc. So these types of simulators can be very useful. It is an issue again that needs to be tackled, that what should be the nature of those simulators. So one thing is that you make quantum computing algorithms and run down these simulators and validate them, and the other thing is to run full-fledged validation of the languages and the algorithms that needs to be tackled through these simulators. For quantum software, similarly, you see, in case of classical software engineering, we have come a long way. We have talked about third generation languages, then fourth generation languages, and then we stopped talking in terms of generations of languages. We have come now to architectures, and then we have talked about how people write software solutions to problems. We have tried to capture the best practices in solving problems and writing software for them in terms of design patterns, architectural patterns, etc., frameworks, so on and forth. Whether those types of things are possible for quantum software also is another issue. That whether we need to discover, and would we be able to discover higher level structuring techniques and architectures for quantum software. Again, we have to juxtapose the two situations, that writing computational procedures in terms of quantum gates, like writing computational procedures in terms of AND and OR gates is one thing, and devising solutions at the software level when you have high level languages and you have various types of structures that can be created over the capability, or rather harnessing or making use of the capabilities of the high level languages and the paradigms of solving problems. And once we will have such types of quantum languages, good quantum languages, some efforts are already there, debugging and testing techniques for them, quantum languages. Cynics would say that this type of thinking is not right, because it is a sequential computing driven thinking of ours. Or the way we have been solving problems, we want to do things in quantum domain also in the similar fashion. So the question is not that whether we are going to have the same name, debugging, these types of testing techniques for quantum languages. Maybe the quantum computing can have the capability of inbuilt tests, because once you will have enormous computing power, then built-in test is something that can be integrated in the algorithm of the computation itself. The testing can be part, it may not be an afterthought. That is another possibility, that is very great possibility in quantum computing that we have lacked. Though in limited sense people have tried to accommodate it in the classical computing, but just because of the availability of the enormous computing power, when the commercial quantum computer should be available, then this type of the automatic debugging testing techniques for quantum languages could be there. There could be visualizing Q quantum algorithm execution could be there. You see, the equation that I have written there, system is equal to hardware plus software, is very interesting, because some way we have been talking about the computation models till now, the way we perform computations. Either the human mind can do it, as of now, as we understand today. What this system is equal to hardware plus software, if you write in Sanskrit, it will become tantra is equal to yantra plus mantra. So, can somebody operate only at the level of mantra? I mean, it is similar to something that our CEOs used to do, that they would just rotate their hand in the air and an apple would come. So there you don't have any hardware, with only the mantra you are able to make something. Similar type of situation can you have such types of machines that are not going to make use of much of hardware, such simple hardware, whether the biological or molecular computing would be giving that. So if that type of computing would be possible, then possibly not much of these debugging techniques and software architectures that we are talking today would be required. But still, if there are going to be computational procedures of the type that human mind can think about, that human mind can devise, then obviously these types of structuring techniques, architectures, software architectures, etc. will be talked about. And that is what we have been, that is what scientists have been trying today, that they are trying to propose quantum algorithms in the same way, like we are talking about the storage in quantum sense also, for the same purpose. There are certain newer possibilities also that may be there, that we did not have possibility for. Like when we make use of classical machines, classical computing systems, classical computing devices, we talk about pseudo-random numbers. When the periodicity is big, we have a good deal of randomness available that can be exploited for many purposes. But quantum computers can produce true random numbers. We have been able to devise algorithms that are probabilistic algorithms or randomized algorithms that we consider. They make use of the pseudo-random numbers, and there are newer types of possibilities of computing. That is why I said that instead of looking at only Turing capability, there is a possibility of looking at quantum Turing computability. Because there are many newer things possible that were earlier not possible. That there is a possibility of going for, rather getting the true genuine random numbers. So what are the newer types of computations that can be performed that were not possible earlier? So we have to think about the new power and new difficulties that might emerge as a result of genuine randomness. Difficulties may also be there. That is another issue that needs to be dealt with mathematicians and rather computer scientists who deal with the mathematical domain of computing. Quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement of one qubit, that is what we have been fascinated with, or 2 bits. We have not talked about quantum entanglement of a qubit, or have. That is another interesting thing. This also offers new possibilities. We can have something that is not possible with present day machines, that is information teleportation. Complete information teleportation. This can be exploited to produce new kinds of protocols and new kinds of algorithms. So as I started in the beginning, that those who are in computing science area, we have the requirement of dealing with the issues and then challenges and problems. So we are still at the level of issues, that whether we have to concretely identify the issues, and that is why the word issue is important. Because if we start dealing with some non-issue under the name issue, then it may lead to a destination which will not be very rewarding. And now the computing science community needs to address these issues that are from the computability side and up to the exploitation of the capabilities of the quantum computing machines. We come to an end of this, and I hope that the software engineering discipline would start devoting sufficient time and effort for the serious consideration of the quantum software engineering issues. Thank you.